Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Starcastic Remarks. As always, we appreciate you guys being back here for the next episode of Stars Fan Stories, our ongoing off-season series, where every Tuesday at 7 on YouTube, it goes live, where we meet with different Dallas Stars fans, not just from Texas, but from all over the world. We got lots of other interviews coming up for you guys over the next couple of months. But while you're here, please consider clicking like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the Stars Fan Stories or of our continuing off-season coverage of this team. Today, we have a good fan of the Dallas Stars. His name is T. Haynes. T, thank you for being here. I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with me.
No, it's a pleasure, Ryan. Thank you for having me. I think that I have a pretty different kind of Stars fandom story, so happy to share it with you and your audience.
So before we get into anything else, tell us like some non-hockey related stuff about you. Because honestly, I think that's the most interesting thing about some people sometimes. Because like I've interviewed a couple of other guys for this series, and like one's a pilot, and the other is like from Finland, and there's another guy that lives in like Canada. And it's just cool to see that it's not just relegated to the DFW area. So tell us some things about you.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing I should that just springs to mind is it's a little bit embarrassing. I mean, I've actually never been to Dallas. I've been to Dallas in when I was 12, stopping in the airport on the way to New Orleans, I think it was, or maybe it was New York. But other than that, I've never been to Dallas. It's definitely on the bucket list to get there. I've thought about going down there for some playoffs at some stage, but it hasn't quite happened just yet. But yeah, I was born in Darwin, Australia. I grew up in Perth, Western Australia. I was always pretty enamored with hockey. It wasn't the sport that I grew up playing because it was very, very limited. There was one rink in Western Australia, which was about an hour drive from where we were, and so it wasn't really something that was too accessible. So I grew up with the traditional Australian sports of cricket in the summer and Aussie rules football in the winter. I love my Geelong Cats of the Australian Football League. I moved to Vancouver, Canada when I was 28. I came over here to work on the Winter Olympics. And then I just sort of stayed here. I met my wife, and now I've got the kids in the house and all of that. I work in event management and fabrication. I'm currently actually working for the Greater Vancouver Zoo. I'm doing a big project at the Vancouver Zoo, which I can't say too much about at this stage. But yeah,
man, you got to give us the down low on this. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
In my spare time, I have a side hustle. You can see a little bit of it up behind me, but I have a store that I sell Lego parts and sets on, as well as also selling used and some new records as well. I've got my decks just sitting off to the corner there. So yeah, that's kind of what keeps me busy, along with my my two kids and coaching their hockey as well.
That is absolutely awesome. So it's almost like you could say you were born in the wrong country, right?
Kind of. Sometimes say that. Sometimes people will come up to me here. I mean, the first thing that they'll say, they say, "How do you become a Stars fan? Where are you from? You're Australian. You're a Stars fan. I answer that question so many times, and of course, the answer is always when you're an Australian and you start liking hockey, you can pick whichever team that you want. So I mean, we can get into that, but it's definitely been an interesting path, and sometimes people will say to me like, "Oh, what are you doing in Canada? Like, why would you move from Australia?" And I sort of say, "I'm not moving back. There's not enough hockey back in Australia."
So I gotta ask. There's one thing I am actually very curious about. So you said you moved to Vancouver when you were 28 to work on the Winter Olympics, I think?
Winter Olympics, yep.
Winter Olympics. And is that when Sidney Crosby scored the golden goal?
That is.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
so
that. Go ahead.
So how did you get a job working with the Olympics? Like, how did that come about? Because like I wouldn't even know where to look if I was curious of doing something like that.
Yeah, well, I was at the age where I was sort of thinking to myself, I'm getting towards 30 now, and as Australians, we have a lot of opportunity that Americans don't, with regards to working holiday visas, where especially countries that are part of the Commonwealth, you can apply for a working visa, and those sorts of opportunities end around about age 30. So I was thinking to myself, well, if I'm going to go and do some work overseas, it better be soon. And at that stage, it was very, very typical. And I'm not sure still as much, but a lot of Aussies end up in London working in bars. And, that wasn't really what I wanted to do, which was to come back to Australia with a gap on my resume that said, yeah, I worked in a bar or something like that. And I just sort of thought, wherever I want to go and work overseas, I'd like something that at least looks like I've been productive while overseas. So it was at that stage that I realized the Olympics were in Vancouver, and I thought, well, I can get a visa really easy for Canada. And it was actually at the stage where the global financial crisis in 2008 had hit, where things were really bad, and I already had flights booked at that stage. I didn't have a job with the Olympics guaranteed. I thought I'll go over there and give it my best shot. And the worst thing that will happen is I come back home with my tail between my legs. I was quite fortunate when I got here, and then they eventually they had a hiring freeze on for a good portion of the first few months that I was here. So it was looking for a while like I was going to have to go back with my tail between my legs. But when they did end up opening and start, when they dropped the freeze and started hiring people again, I had a pretty good advantage, because typically there are a couple of ways you can get hired by an Olympic organizing committee. One is they organize a working visa for you if you are just, really, really qualified. Or if you are a local Canadian citizen, or if you have your own working visa, which I did, I sort of had a bit of a head start. So yeah, and then it's just sort of applying by the traditional ways that you'd be applying for any job. I mean, there was Olympics jobs that were posted on job sites and the Olympics website. It's a really big workforce. There was thousands of people working a year in advance, and it sort of builds up. When the Olympics are announced, you have a team of 10 or 12 people that are involved in a bid. And then, as the time goes further and further on, you have the people that start working on the marketing, and then on this. And, a couple of years out, you got people that are getting hired for all of the operations type stuff. And yeah.
That's actually really interesting. I didn't know about any of that. And that is actually really awesome that you took a shot in the dark like that. And I mean, look at you now. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, I did.
That's really fantastic.
Yeah, I sort of looked at it a little bit. I heard someone else with a similar sort of not a story, but that he was telling a story, and said that he kind of like pressed Control Alt Delete on his life, and I was kind of looking at it a little bit like that. There are a number of things that I was dissatisfied with in my life at Perth at that stage, and I just sort of thought, you know what, you're starting absolutely fresh. You can pick a whole new set of friends. Anyone that you don't like, you can just, not be in contact with. So yeah, it was just a bit of a reset. It was a good way of putting it. But I didn't realize at that stage. I actually ended up getting, when the games were finishing, I got a working visa for England, and was going to go and work on the London games. And I ended up getting a better offer here. Actually went and project managed Shambhala Music Festival. For anyone in the EDM scene listening that's familiar with Shambhala Music Festival out in the Kootenay Valley region of BC. That was just an amazing experience, and I weighed things up, the difference between waking up in Nelson and walking into the office and shoveling snow and that sort of stuff, or going to London and spending 2 hours sitting on a tube and living in a shack somewhere. So
Yeah, understood that. That's cool. That's very cool.
yeah.
Well, Okay, so let's talk about the like I have no idea. Well, I kind of do because I kind of cheated a little bit. We talked beforehand, but like how did it become Dallas? And I understand hockey because you were interested in it all the way back when you were in Australia. But why Dallas and when did it start? And tell us how that came about.
Yeah, so like I said, I was always pretty enamored with hockey, but I didn't even know anyone that liked hockey or just had any connection with it whatsoever. The first house that I lived in when I moved out home at age 18, and I moved in with one of my friends, and it turns out he played roller hockey and he was really into hockey, and yeah, we started playing the NHL '99 was on the Nintendo 64, and we started playing that pretty seriously. I played the earlier games, on I think it was NHL '93 and NHL '94, which were good fun. But it started getting serious with NHL '99. Living out of home and no parents, you had a lot more time to play games, and yeah, it was that sort of scenario we're going through, just picking teams, and you're going through looking at which ones are ranked well, but then also kind of looking at all of the back in the '90s, there were a lot of NHL teams with some really gaudy logos and colors and things. So I was looking for a team that was both ranked well, but also looked kind of cool. And remember, it just got to the star, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. Those colors, that logo, those uniforms, they're badass. So that was just kind of what I went with. We ended up playing a full season. I mean, it was crazy. We'd be out at the bar, and things would just be kind of winding up, and we just kind of look at each other and be like, okay, that means we're going to go home and play some hockey. And then there was a point shortly after that. My office downtown, there was a store right between the train station and my office, which popped up and had hockey jerseys. And I was like, they've got Stars jerseys there. So I bought a Stars jersey and came home in the Stars jersey. And he's like, you're unbelievable. So it was at that stage. I was definitely a Stars fan. And of course, then I went and bought the white jersey as well. So if I was playing a home game in the game, I was wearing the home jersey, and I'd change it if I was playing an away game. So yeah, it was definitely quite fun.
Well, I can't. I'm a little bit of a jersey snob myself, if I'm being honest. Like when Fanatics took over the jersey making for the NHL, and I was really worried. And they've done okay. I haven't heard anything bad about it. But I think in my jersey collection, I have about 17 or 18 Stars jerseys, and they're all just random different ones. Like for those of you that are watching on or listening on the audio side, like behind T, there's a what they would call the retro jersey from like the '99 era when they won the cup, and then he's also got the quote unquote rebrand when with the big D within the star, which is what they currently use. And then I've got jerseys like all-star jerseys that are just kind of random and really ugly but amazing. I have the infamous Mooterist jersey. That is the only jersey I have ever spent more than $200 American on. Like the only jersey, because I could never find a jersey that was within my price range, that was close to my size, that wasn't outrageously expensive. And it's literally it's just a blank, so there's no name, no number on the back. And it's a large, so it's a little bigger than I wanted it to be. But I think I spent $225 on it, and like I think originally the person was trying to sell it for like 300, and I was like, please, I will get a really good use out of this. I promise. I have a podcast. I sent him the link. He's like, oh, you're awesome. Here, I'll give you a $75 discount. And I was just like, oh, that'd be awesome. I'll take it.
Yeah, so, I remember. Actually, I didn't sort of get into it, but it was the late '90s, sort of mid to late '90s, when Australia actually got cable television. So that was really our first chance to get any kind of like actual games on TV. And yeah, so a lot of the time the games would be sort of like early on a Saturday morning. So if we'd gone out to the bar or something, the next morning there was, there'd be a game on, and it was usually the was usually Western Conference teams more than Eastern Conference teams, and it was teams that were pretty good at the time. So there was lots of Dallas, Detroit, Colorado games. So that was when really started to actually get to watch some of the games and learn a lot more about the sport and some of the intricacies. So there was sorry, lost my train of thought there. But
no, that's okay.
that's okay. I was actually going to say, the Muteris jersey. I was actually watching one of the games when they kind of unveiled that Muteris logo. I was like,
oh my goodness, it is ugly.
It's a little different. It's a little different. Yeah. Well, you also didn't mention I got Sochi Ben up there as well.
Yeah. You can't see it because of that. Here, let me put you full screen so people can actually see it on YouTube.
But yeah, got Sochi Ben up there as well. You know, obviously got the goal in the only goal in the semi-final, which people often forget about. But you know, it's definitely one of Jamie's biggest goals. I'm in the process of sort of moving everything upstairs, so I don't have everything properly kitted out. And it was a bit of a what jerseys are going to be put up behind me, because I've also got the first jersey that I ever bought, which was the black one from when the Stars first moved to Dallas. So it's got a little bit of white
So it was the same logo that they used in Minnesota in the 92-93 season, but it just didn't say Dallas across the top, right? And then they moved to Texas, kept the same logo and everything. They just hadn't put Dallas over the top, and then they started adding Dallas over the top. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and a lot of people forget, like, and when they see that jersey, you have to ask, is it a 92-93 jersey or is it a 93-94 jersey? Because it might be a Minnesota jersey or it might be a Dallas Stars jersey, and a lot of people don't know that about that. So
there is a bit of a different. I think the Dallas one is actually a little nicer, because the Minnesota one, I think it's the white band at the side, which is just a little thicker, and it just doesn't look it doesn't look quite as polished as the Dallas one does. But
and it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad. It's just the Stars version in 93-94 just looks so much better than the Minnesota version. And we also are probably a little bit biased too, if we're being honest. So
yeah, of course. Yeah, it was sort of quite interesting to I sort of kind of look at it. I've heard people talk about Tyler Sagan, the fact that he won a cup in his first year, and then he's just been searching for it since. And it's almost like, I can imagine, you know, in your rookie year, you win a title, and then, you know, a lot of it's for granted. And I could remember also hearing a similar story, a guy called Cameron Mooney, who played for Geelong, and in I think it was his first season, he played in a grand final and won a premiership when he was with North Melbourne, and he spent a couple of minutes on the field and had like 2 possessions, and that was it. And he's been asked about that before, because again, he went the rest of his career, and he ended up winning another 2 championships with Geelong at the end of his career. But people would ask him about that premiership, and he just said, where's your premiership medal? And he said, I don't know, it's in a drawer somewhere. I don't kind of really think about that one kind of too much. But you can have that first one where you're taking it for granted, and then you're really, you know, searching for that next one. And I sort of feel like my fandom is a little bit like that, because I became a Stars fan, and then later that season we won the cup, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And you just kind of hanging for that next one, which just obviously hasn't come yet, but hopefully we're not too far away.
Yeah, and a lot of people take that for granted, and like, you know, people make fun of like the big gag in the NHL is like everyone makes fun of the Maple Leafs, right? Because they haven't won a cup since 1967. They've had a really good team now for almost a decade, and like, but the thing is that when the last time they won the cup, there was like less than half the league there is now. There's 32 teams. That's hard to do. And considering that a lot of these teams, you know, are good for a good long while in the cap era, with, you know, about 5-6 years, I'd say. I mean, you got the Florida Panthers, who just won back-to-back cups. You had the Chicago Blackhawks in the 2010s, who won 3 in 5 years. You've got the LA Kings, who won 2 within 3 or 4 years, stuff like that. So it makes it even harder to win a cup, just because that's just the way it is. But let me move on because I do want to I do want to talk to you about a couple of other things too. So your first experience with the Dallas Stars was the Cup winning year, correct? Like 1998, 1999. So,
right.
So give me your favorite player from that era, or around there, and then give me your favorite current Dallas Stars player, and you can tell me whatever you want to about either one of those guys.
Yeah, it's tough. You can end up with a lot of love with for a lot of the players for a lot of different reasons. Back in the day, I think that Hatch was definitely I really liked the way that Hatch went about it. There was he reminded me of some grizzled old Aussie rules footballers and the way that they went about their business in the 80s and 90s, and then obviously the moment when he took his run at Ronick, I fell in love. Never and
that
broke
still
his
lives
jaw.
rent free in my head too. Yeah, that's that.
I mean,
oh man, it's so gruesome. But at the same time, Jeremy Romanek is like, he's not one of those guys you like hate because he's a terrible person. He's one of those players that you hate, but you would love him if he was on your team. So like Jamie Benn or a Brad Marchand or a Tom Wilson, like one of those guys. But man, it was so
absolutely
awesome to see Darian Hatcher do that. I still remember that. I was only 6 years old when that happened.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, a hit like that is definitely not something that's tolerated anymore, nor should it. Oh well, actually, he got suspended for it anyway, but
He did.
he
Yeah.
was, which was probably deserved. But So there were a few guys back then. I mean, from the Cup year as well. I don't know what it was, but there was something about Benoit Hogue, which I really liked. I'm not really sure exactly what that was. It's difficult to kind of quantify. Jamie Langenbrunner as well. I remember being really disappointed when he moved on to New Jersey. So there was quite a few guys, and obviously Mo. I mean, Mo's just he's a legend. There's a reason that statue exists out the front. I hope to go get a look at it one day. Yeah,
it's fantastic. You got to come here at some point. If you ever do, hit me up because I want to meet up with you. But I mean, yeah, for me, Hatcher was one of my favorites, and I said this in one of the other Stars fan stories, but a lot of people don't know this about me. But I actually played youth hockey from the time I was 4 until I was 11. So I started skating when I was 4, started actually playing hockey when I was 5. And they used to do the little mini mites shootouts in the intermission and during Dallas Stars games, and I got to do that I think at least 3 or 4 times. And
cool.
one of the coolest things I ever got to do, and I think it was the last time I did it. I was actually the goalie for the shootout for one of the teams, and Ed Belfour was coming off the ice. It was between the first and the second period, and he just took his stick and just whacked the crud out of my pads, and so he was acknowledging me. It was like goalie to goalie. It was the coolest thing ever. And I'm sitting there just like, awestruck and starstruck and everything. And at the same time, I'm like, oh, that really hurt. But that's why Eddie the Eagle has been one of my favorite players for a long time. And that particular story is the reason why. It is just because of little things like that. And sometimes those little plays like you talked about with Hatch, sometimes they'll just stick in your brain and they become your favorite player because of that. So that's awesome. So, okay. And
then current players.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so current players, obviously, I'm a huge Jamie fan. I mean, Jamie's arrival at Dallas coincides with the time that I arrived in Vancouver. And because I was on the same time zone then, I'm in Canada, I'm surrounded by other hockey people. My fandom sort of went from a bit more of a casual fan to a whole lot more involved when I got here. And, the Stars really weren't very good at that stage. It was the tail end of Brad Richards and, Mike Ribeiro. And
I call it the dark ages. The dark ages of bankruptcy.
Yeah, bankruptcy years, which weren't too great, but there was a couple of little bright things that happened with James Neal coming along, and then Jamie Benn, and I could remember watching him when he first got called up, and I was like, wow, that's my guy. He's going to be something. I said to one of my my French Canadian friends, Pierre, I said, you watch this kid Jamie Benn, he's going to be something. This is one of my first big calls kind of thing, and he sort of looked at me, he's just like, oh, come on, man, like you got a bit to learn about. You got a little bit to learn about hockey. You're not a scout. You can't judge. So I was happy I proved him wrong on that one. But I got to see Jamie get his first goal here in Vancouver, which was one of the first games that I'd been to here. So yeah, it's really hard to go past Jamie. I mean, it's in some ways a little bit disappointing that there's been a couple of incidences which are really kind of pretty unforgivable, that aren't real hockey plays. The cross check he did in Detroit against name escapes me, but set the guy injured, which wasn't too cool. And obviously I was really disappointed with the Western Conference Finals 3 years ago against Mark Stone. And I like Mark Stone no more than Jamie does, but you got to do things to help your team, not hinder them. So it's kind of a little bit disappointing, because I've been rocking my Jamie Benn jersey for, I wear it all. I wear it all the time. I wear it all the time, and there does sort of come that point a little bit now where he goes from like an awesome player, but sort of like now he's that player that other teams like to hate. And for with some reason and some legitimacy, but it's not going to stop me being a huge Jamie fan anyway.
Well, let me ask you about this, because this is not the first time this has popped up in a Stars fan stories recording I've done, and I think there is some legitimacy to this, and I think the guys on DLLS have kind of talked about it too a little bit. It almost feels like that instance, the one you're talking about, when he crossed Mark Stone in the back of the neck, and he's remembering the 2020 days, right? Like, I mean, everyone, the hardcore fans who have at least been around for 5 years, they remember that scene of the second to last Dallas Star member leaving the locker room in Edmonton, and it's just Jamie Benn in there with the laundry in the center of the room, and he's just sitting there, just like looking around, putting his head down, and wondering whether he's going to get to that point again. And I'm sure he was thinking about that during that Western Conference final, but it almost feels like that particular instance has diminished his ability to be physical and be that rat that Brad Marchand can be, right? It almost feels like that right there was the turning point of his career, and when his physicality started ramping down a little bit. He's still got that in his game, but like the what's the right word? The butt-headedness of his game that makes people hate him, like people hate Mason Marchment and stuff like that. Like, that's not as much there anymore. And I wonder if that instance is because of it. And ever since then, he's been less effective in that part of the game. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a good point. I'd never really quite so much thought about it like with that lens, but I think you make a really fair point. I've thought a lot about the coaching as well, and how Jamie's game's going to be affected by a coaching change. How much he was being stifled with with his physicality.
Whether he was being told to stop, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's an interesting point that you make, because there definitely hasn't been quite that sort of grit in his game, and you can sometimes see it. I felt like in was it the series against Winnipeg? I can't remember exactly, but I remember there was a moment. I think that Jamie had been stoned in the game, and then there was an instance where something happened behind the net. And I just saw this look on Jamie's face, and I thought, I wonder if he's going to unlock that again. I wonder if he's going to tap into it. And I think that it's still there. He's definitely still got the Papa Bear in him, for sure. I don't think you'll lose that.
Yeah, it's still there, and honestly, that's something that a lot of Stars fans are talking about. Oh well, the scoring is missing out of the Stars game, and they're looking at the Panthers, and they're looking at what Edmonton did to us in the Western Conference Final, and the fact that we didn't have any of that, that butt-headedness at all in that series. And Jamie and at the time we're recording this, Mason Marchman has been traded to Seattle, so we lost that physicality aspect off the team. And also at the time of this recording, Jamie Benn has re-signed a 1-year deal for $1 million, which is great and everything. We need that physicality from him. We need him to bring that part of his game back. And I understand I don't think the leadership ever left, and I don't think that the trust from his teammates ever left, but that physicality aspect seems to have left from his game. And even at 35, 36, I think he's gonna be 36 in like a month or so. He's got to get back to that. We need that more than ever because we're gonna have less players that can do it.
You're absolutely right. I mean, sometimes when people have seen me with the Jamie Benn jersey on or we're chatting and people say, "Oh, I don't like his contract. He isn't sort of," and that contract's been absolutely fine. From you've got to pay someone, right? So the cap space is in there. And people have sort of said, "Well, were you expecting to be an Art Ross Trophy winner every year?" The year that he won it was a pretty darn low total, so one of the lowest total ever, perhaps for an Art Ross winner. Can't remember exactly, but the thing that I'd always said to people was, I don't care. He plays playoff hockey, and he always turns it up when the playoffs come along. And I think that it has just been that little bit different last year and the year before to an extent as well, where you haven't felt like he's gone into that playoff mode.
Right. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
I cannot believe we've already been talking for 30 minutes. Hasn't felt like it, but I've got like 3 more questions for you that I want to ask you, and then we'll wrap it up here. So what's a game in your mind that you think about way too often, even years later? Like, is there a specific game from any playoff run, or is it just like a random regular season game? Like for me, I don't know why this sticks into my head, but there is I understand why. There was a game on New Year's Eve against the Boston Bruins that my wife bought me tickets to, and it was me and her, and we got to sit in the lower bowl, which I don't get to sit in the lower bowl very much. And even now, even though I get to go to the games, I'm up in the press box. So it was so cool to watch how fast and how ridiculously quick those guys are, and the timing and everything. So, and we ended up like completely destroying the Boston Bruins that game. It was like 5-0 or 6-1 or something like that. So that one sticks in my head. Is there a game like that sticks into your head?
Yeah, I thought for a second when you're asking the question, something that sticks in my head as in like a bad game, and I was kind of thinking back straight away to that game in Minnesota, game 8.
It can be bad or good, either one.
To miss out on the playoffs. Yeah, I've been really lucky that I haven't got to get to a game in Dallas, but I've been to a lot of games here in Vancouver, and there was one that I went to which was a few years ago, and the wife I think got me her company tickets, which were a few rows back from the glass where the players are behind the bench, and it's kind of a good thing about being a Dallas fan and being in Vancouver is the tickets, they're not the biggest market team. So if I decided to be a Maple Leafs fan or an Oilers fan or something, the opportunities to get to games at a decent price would be a lot more limited. But it's also one of those things where people find out you're a Stars fan and they go, "Oh yeah, the Stars game this year is on a Tuesday night. I'll see if I can get you our company tickets, or I'm probably not going to use mine." So that's usually pretty cool. But yeah, the wife managed to get the tickets for the game, and it was the game that Henrik Sedin broke the record for the most number of career points with Vancouver. And
I remember that. Okay.
Yeah, and it was. I think that I can't remember exactly how the game went along exactly, but if I remember, it was something like the Stars were down by a couple of goals after Henrik Sedin had got a point. I don't know whether it was a goal or an assist on that goal to break the record. And the fans had gone up, and the fans were standing And I was sitting there. I'm not going to stand. I'm not happy about this, right? So I'm sitting there, everyone's standing around me, kind of thing. And the fans were just going nuts for a long time, which isn't something that they do in Vancouver. It's usually a pretty timid crowd. No offense, Vancouver listeners, but you know what I'm talking about. And so they were down by a couple of goals, and the fans are just going nuts. And I wish I could remember right now the name of the player, but there was a player, a Stars player that just kind of, and I read about it afterwards, is that, you know, a fight started. And what had actually happened was that the Dallas player and the Vancouver player, one of them had just kind of looked at the other one, and the other one had just met him in the seen him looking at him, and their eyes had met out of the corner of their eyes, and they were like, yeah, it's on. And obviously the Dallas player is trying to do something to break up the momentum. And what I didn't realize until reading this later on was that, you know, those two guys were like roommates in college, right? And that was why they knew each other so well that as soon as one of them looked at the other, you know, just to try and break up some momentum. And immediately, I think there was the fight, and then I think immediately after that there was another fight, and it spurred a really big comeback for the Stars, and it was something like a 5-4 victory or something like that. And you know, I remember even having Vancouver fans as we were leaving the building that were sort of slapping me on the back, saying like, that was a really good game. We lost that, but you know, we got our money's worth tonight, kind of thing. So that was definitely a memorable game for me. If we got time and you want to go into another one, which might be a little bit more fresh in the mind, was the Western Conference Finals last year in Edmonton. I got home from work on the Monday afternoon or something, and the wife and the kids are sitting there on the couch, and they've all got a bit of a look on their face. And I'm like, "What's up with you guys?" And they're like, "We got a surprise for you." And I was like, "Okay." And they said, "You got to pack your bags because you're flying out at 5 a.m. tomorrow to fly to Edmonton. I got your tickets for you and my father-in-law and his nephew to go to Western Conference Finals Game 3." And similar sort of story. The Oilers were up 2-0 at the end of the first, and you know, within a couple of minutes of the second period, they tied it all up and left the game. We were up 2-1 in the series, and we looked pretty good, and it felt like we were going on to bigger and better things. So yeah, that was an awesome experience, and the Edmonton building was just fantastic as well. I mean, I had my jersey. There wasn't much green in the crowd, and had my cowboy hat on and my boots and stuff. And there were a lot of people that I hadn't even mentioned that I was going to the game, and people were watching, and I was getting these text messages saying, "Is that you that I can see over the goalie's shoulder?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." So
yep,
yeah,
I'm in Edmonton.
That was really fun. Yeah, it was a really fun experience, and the fans in Edmonton are really cool. They were really good mob. It was you know, the Vancouver crowd, especially in the lower bowl, it can be pretty sort of corporate. Whereas I didn't get that vibe in Edmonton at all. They all seemed like, you know, really hard, diehard fans that were in there. They were really cool.
Yeah, and this will. I'm going to help everybody else who's listening. They're probably listening to you right now and being like, "We hate Edmonton." I think that here's the deal, and I think this is true. I think that a majority of fans in any fan base, if you go and visit their arena, they're going to be chill and they're going to be cool. That's my belief, and I think that's true anywhere. And then the only fans that we're seeing a lot of that are being buttheads, and the reason why we think so negatively of Edmonton is because of the social media, you know, keyboard warriors. I mean, and let's be honest, there's some in Dallas too that are like that as well. And then I have a couple of guys I know that I'm in a group chat with on X that I know they do it on purpose. I know that they look to rage bait anybody who they can. So like, but
yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I mean, the recent experience. I mean, I'm online before and after games and chatting with people and different fan base and stuff as well. And just recently I found like Colorado fans were, they were really cool. Edmonton fans, sorry, the Winnipeg fans I thought were really good as well. And then, yeah, you get to Edmonton and it's just like, man, these guys have got a chip on their shoulder. I don't know whether it was all the cups in the 80s or what it is, but I mean, I had this when I was at the game where there was a play where Darnell Nurse had gone to play the puck and then left it, and it had gone to the end of the rink, and these fans behind me were complaining about it being icing, and I just sort of had to turn around and be like, Nurse went to play the puck, buddy. It's not icing. Don't let the Australian guy teach you the rules of hockey. And all of his friends were just in hysterics about that. But I can say firsthand that the fans in Edmonton are not the ones that are represented on the keyboards. I can fairly safely say that.
Yeah, and yeah, every fan base has their moments. Let's be honest, they do. So, okay. Well, I still can't believe it's been 40 minutes, but I'll give you one more question. We'll wrap it up, okay? And this is the one that I'm asking every Stars fan who's coming on for this series, and it's this, and it's more of an I guess you could say emotional one. You can go however you want to with this question, but this team is in a very weird position right now, right? A lot of people are looking at this team and saying they're going to take a step back, and including myself. And I just don't see it how they can do it, considering the raises that some guys are getting. Like obviously Rantanen getting 12 million, Ottinger, his big deal is coming in now. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's not a lot of depth like there was the last 2 years. I think the last 2 years we've had our best roster in a very long time, probably since 2015 when Lindy Ruff won the Western Conference in the regular season. But what is your message to the team right now if they were listening to you right now? Like what's something that you would wish they would hear from you?
Wow, it's a tough question.
Right?
I have to remind them that the game is decided a lot of the time on razor thin margins. When you get to the stage where you've won a couple of playoff rounds and you're in the final four teams, I mean, I know that we can sort of look at Florida, and a lot of people have sort of said, even if we'd beaten Edmonton, there was no way we were getting past that Florida team. Regardless, you're in that final four. You're pretty darn close. I mean, I don't think that they need to do anything that's too crazy. I know that it's a little bit disappointing. I could remember leading into the playoffs last year, especially while they were going through that losing skid, to just be like, guys, don't waste this. Like this is the best roster that the team's had for a while, and even though we've got a core that's going to be around for a long time. And, I've said to my wife, a couple of years ago, I was like, get ready for deep playoff runs for a good few years, because they're going to be good for a while. But at the same time, thinking last year, with Granlund and just that little bit of extra flexibility that they did have with the cap and with draft capital, that's kind of now being used. It just sort of felt like, wow, last year, could have been the best shot at it. But having said that, you only need some improvement in key areas from a couple of your players that can really turn things around. If we see the continued development of a player like Leon Bichelle, that's going to do an awful lot. We know that Wyatt Johnson didn't have a great playoff series last playoffs. I mean, his goal differential was historically bad. But having said that, you also have to take into account the players that he was playing against, the rotating cast of players on his wings. He could have a completely different playoffs next year. And that could be a really big difference maker to get them over the top. It is going to be really interesting to see how the rest of free agency all plays out in July. But they're going to be there and thereabouts again. There was a stat or a meme or a screenshot that I'd seen of top prospects. I think it was the top 25 prospects, top 30 prospects that were surveyed as to where they would like to be drafted to, and Dallas was far and above. It was statistically significant how far further they were in front. That it's a place that young players want to come to, and I think that there's a reason for that. Whether it's beyond just the age of the core group and likelihood to succeed, the weather, the tax, whatever. I don't know whether kids at that age are thinking about the tax. Maybe they are. But yeah, I don't think there's any need to panic with roster construction. I think they're going to be thereabouts this year again. It's a game. It's a game that can have razor thin margins with the results. So one or two players getting hot at the right time can really turn things around and get us over that hump.
Yeah, and that's what I was. That's what I've been telling people, and Luds is saying it now on DLS, and I was saying it before then. But like, to be completely honest with you, in the playoffs, we didn't really have the team clicking. It wasn't clicking the way that it was earlier in the year, and we were, it was really like the truck, the motor, the power was coming from Rantanen and from Ottinger, and then occasional, representations from Sagan or Granlund or Harley or Miro, and that was basically it. Everyone else was kind of a passenger, and including Duchesne and Hintz to some certain extent as well. So and they got all the way to the Western Conference.
We got to the Western Conference.
We got to the Western Conference final on just doing that. So like, if they can be clicking, be ready in time for the playoffs, then who knows what this team could have done if they had been ready to go. And I'll say it now, and it might be unpopular. They weren't ready to go for the playoffs. So, but the good thing is they've still got a lot of the same players that are part of the core here. You've still got your captain who we don't know to the extent that the players do, but we do know that the players, he means a lot to the players here. So, keeping him here was very, very important, regardless of what it would have cost. So that's the positive thing to be looking about and forward with this team. And what I've been saying is like, the thing is that as much as I criticize this team, that's part of my job as being a podcaster is finding things that's going on wrong and trying to find ways to fix it, just like a coach would. But the motivation is different. For a coach, he wants to get to that Stanley Cup, and he wants to. He's obviously financially motivated because he gets paid for it too. But like, for me, it's because I love this team and I love this city, and I there's not another team that means as much to me as the Dallas Stars do. So that's something if they were listening to this, that's something I wish they would hear, is that, like, as much as I criticize and all of this other stuff, please know that, like, I truly, truly love this team, and I would die for this team. Anything, like, if I had to give $30 to keep Mason Marchment here, and all it took was $30 to keep him here, or $100, I would have paid the money to keep him here. Like, it's silly things like that. So
yeah, I'll chip in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think a lot of people would have chipped in too to do that. So, well, T, thank you.
You make a really good point.
Yep. Well, T, thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me. I really appreciate it. It's fun to get your to get your story and where you're from and how it kind of zigzagged around and how awesome that is and how different that is. And the fact that you're a Stars fan and you haven't even been to Texas. That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. I love that. So
no, I've definitely got to do it. I was maybe going to come down in the year that turned out to be the pandemic year. So yeah, it's definitely high on the bucket list to go and do that for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on and doing this, and for all of you who are listening to the episode. Thanks once again. Please consider clicking like, subscribe, hit that notification bell as always. It's the best way to help us grow. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. We're very close. We're less than 100 away. Now we're in the double digits instead of the triple. And as always, you can follow us on social media at Starcastic, basically anywhere and everywhere. X, TikTok, Facebook. I mean, anything you can think of, we're probably there. So alongside T, my name's Ryan. We'll catch you guys on the flip side, and we will see you again for the next edition of Stars Fan Stories. Thank you guys, everyone. Go Stars.
Thanks, Ryan. Love your work.
You're welcome.